So once you've done the step one in reading an article, now it's time to get to the step two, which is reread. If you've decided to put the article in the repository, which says कि आप दोबारा जाके ये relevant है और दोबारा जाके आप उसको read करोगे. So in rereading, it is important कि अब आप इसको preliminary या preliminary reading नहीं देंगे या skimming नहीं करेंगे. You're going to go and read the article carefully and in detail. Don't skim. You're not supposed to skim any part of it. You should be reading in more detail. And you should while skimming, आपने तो फौरन maybe 15-20 मिनट में वो article skim कर लिया. But in second step, that is rereading, since it's relevant, so it is recommended कि आप उसे properly read करें जिस तरह उसको read करना चाहिए. यानी कि if it takes an hour to read, you should give it an hour to read, and you should carefully include all figures, tables, images, or diagrams while reading that. Acha, now since this article is relevant to your research or आप उसे read कर रहे हैं, तो here you should be asking question while you're reading it. तो वो question multiple तरीकों के हो सकते हैं. You should be asking कि problems are relevant क्या है, what is it that the authors are trying to discover. Methods are relevant, आपके questions हो सकते हैं. Have those questions in your mind while you're reading it. तो वो methods से relevant क्या questions हैं कि क्या चीज़ measure हो रही थी, information क्या collect की, data कैसे collect हुआ, अगर वो experiment था तो उसके अंदर कितने test runs हुए, अगर वो survey था तो वो sample क्या था, उनसे relevant information क्या थी. So all these questions you should be having in your mind while you're doing a reread. That is in the step 2. Then you should also be looking at the results. कि results क्या थे और उनकी findings क्या थी, उनसे inference क्या हुई कि फाइंडिंग्स जो आई हैं वो वाकई में जो रिजल्ट्स है या डेटा जो इस आर्टिकल में है वो डिपेक्ट करता है इन फाइंडिंग्स को या इन इन्फ्रेंसेस को. व्हाइल रीडिंग यू शुड कीप द पर्पस इन माइंड. अगर आप रीड करते हो पर फोकस नहीं होगे तो यू माइट कम अक्रॉस प्रॉब्लम सच एज कि डिस्ट्रैक्शंस हो सकती हैं. आप मे बी द आर्टिकल इज रिटन इन सच अ वे एंड इट्स सो कन्विंसिंग कि यू डिविएट फ्रॉम योर पर्पस और उसके उसने जो कहानी सुनाई है उस कहानी में ही आप bag and you forgot about what the purpose was. So while rereading, you need to be critical of what the authors are trying to do, and and be critical, and evaluation आपने उनकी करनी है. So you have to keep that purpose in your mind जो का आपका focus था in the beginning, जिसके तहत आपने अपना ये literature review start किया था. And of course, you should be recording while you're rereading it. You should be recording all the relevant जो उससे relevant जो information है वो आपको record करनी है. And not only that, you should also keep in mind कि there might be you might come across some information जो कि directly is the article that you're rereading उसमें मौजूद नहीं है. Rather वो information, it is present somewhere else, and maybe you have this need while you're rereading it कि this वो article आप जाकर वो जो referenced article है उसको जाकर आप देखें and you start reading that again. So it is considered not a good practice कि while you're rereading it तो आप distract होके दूसरा article की तरफ चले जाएं, because that way you will not be focused and आपका जो literature review आप कर रहे हैं उसका focus हट जाएगा और it will take much longer time to do a literature review if you have too many jumps just because there was information available in the article that you were reading जो कि interest की थी, लेकिन it involved कि आप जाके कोई जो reference article है उसको दोबारा जाके खोलें. So what is recommended कि you record that the information and the reference that you need to read, and once you've done the rereading of this paper उसके बाद जाकर उसको देखें and read in order to familiarize yourself with whatever they were trying to tell you that. And of course while you're rereading it, it's important to take notes. और while you're taking notes तो दो तरह के notes होंगे. एक वो वाले notes जो कि relevant to the article that you're rereading, उससे उससे रेलेवेंट होंगे, और दूसरे वो वाले नोट्स होंगे that are coming into your mind. See this, at the start, जब आपने start किया अपना literature review, आप reread article कर रहे हो, maybe in the beginning you might not have many information, so you know you're consuming information in order to understand what's going on, right? So in that case, the जो notes होंगे वो most probably are going to be are of the authors. Lekin as you go along and later on, when you have studied, maybe if you reread maybe 20-30 articles, by that time you have enough information you'll be starting to question what other people have done, or you've started to make connections between their work, and as a result you're having ideas of your own. You are having ideas or questions of your own, you know, which are not written anywhere, but you know they are important clues that might lead you towards a research problem जो कि आगे आप जाके find out करोगे. So that means those notes should be differentiated from the notes जो कि आपने authors के. So you know you'll be jotting down two type of notes. एक वो जो कि directly from the article आ रहे हैं, that is from the authors, और एक वो वाले notes जो कि आपके दिमाग में ख्यालात आ रहे हैं, ideas आ रहे हैं, questions आ रहे हैं, connections आ रहे हैं. You should be also noting them down, or you should be differentiating the two notes. And of course you have to ensure कि जो आपके notes हैं that are legible. You should when you go back and read them again, you know वो इतने clear होने चाहिए, इतने clarity से लिखे हुए होने चाहिए कि you should be able to understand them even when you go back to them at a later time. And of course always remember कि while taking notes, always put the reference right there and then. Normally students think that कि you know अभी पढ़ लिया तो later on जाके दोबारा पता चल जाएगा where this information is coming from, but this is not the case, because see this, when you're doing literature review, maybe in the couple of first 3-4 papers you're able to identify where of the notes where this information was coming from, but by the time you've done and you've read maybe 30-40 articles, it's pretty much impossible if you haven't referenced your notes to identify the source of it. So while you're taking notes, it's important कि उसी वक्त ही जहाँ से आपने information extract किया, you put on the reference to it, and even in some cases it's recommended कि आप page number डाल दें, so that when you go back again to have a look at it, you don't waste any time in identifying कि कहाँ से आपने वो वाली बात पढ़ी थी. Okay, so after rereading, you should be able to grasp the whole content of the paper. आपको पता होना चाहिए कि overall इसके अंदर, इस paper के अंदर क्या था, problem क्या थी, solution क्या था, results क्या थे, findings क्या थे, and you should be able to summarize the main findings. कि ये problem था, ये solution था, and as a result of their solution, ये inferencing की है authors हैं, these are the findings of this study in this context, वो सारा आपको summarize करना है after rereading, and you have to identify those parts that you don't understand, so that later on जब आप if you decide to give it a third read, and specifically a third read will come after the reading of multiple articles, so it will give you enough information कि जो आपको पहले बात समझ नहीं आई थी, वो later on आपको समझ आ रहा है, but nevertheless you have to identify those parts के to know कि आपको complete picture आ गई है of the research that was being carried out in this research. And of course after rereading आप decide करेंगे कि आपने तीसरा read करना है या नहीं करना. वैसे under normal circumstances when you are doing a literature review, like I told you earlier, कि एक article को at least 3 times तो एक researcher read करता है, that because first time is going to be just the decision कि whether you have to skim or not, and the second time it's going to be the read that will yield you most of the information that you're trying to grasp from that article, and the third read will will be there eventually in order to find out कि जो multiple आपने articles पढ़े हैं, where do you think your ideas stand in the light of the previous articles. So the third read is going to be more of an analytical read. And while you're rereading the article, it's important, you might come across certain things. Certain things you can say that certain style of writing or the elements in those papers जो कि आपको understand करने चाहिए, or you should be able to differentiate because they mean different things. And one of them is claim, another one is evidence, result, findings, and conclusion. So you should be, being a researcher, while you're reading it, you should be knowing कि claim क्या है, evidence क्या है, और claim और evidence के दरमियान फ़र्क क्या है. Similarly, you should be knowing कि result क्या है और finding क्या है और उन दोनों के दरमियान difference क्या है. Because it will allow you to critically evaluate at the end जब आपने सारे अपने articles पढ़ लिए and you're about to synthesize your literature, this will help you there. So claim क्या है? Claim is just a statement जिसका कोई proof नहीं है, कोई evidence नहीं है, and it is something that is either is an assertion या एक statement है. जैसे हम let's say उसने कह दिया कि जी मैं बहुत बहादुर हूँ. So it's just a claim. There isn't any proof कि मैं बहुत बहादुर हूँ. So it's just is a claim. So maybe in the articles in the beginning, if you find something कि as, for example, the article is about cyberbullying, or शुरू में the authors have written something कि the state of we assert that or we claim that, or maybe उन्होंने कुछ statements तरह की दी है कि cyberbullying is going to be rampant in universities in Pakistan, और साथ में उन्होंने कोई evidence नहीं दिया in terms of the reference कि कहाँ से उन्होंने ये बात ली, या in terms of any statistics, या कोई साथ में उन्होंने कोई proof नहीं दिया है, then that means it's just a claim. It does not mean anything. It's just a statement which the researcher has given in the beginning. Maybe इस claim को वो prove करेगा through his study, or maybe this is what he's trying to find. He's trying to find out कि उसकी जो outcome होगी उसकी study की, it's going to be something like that. So after claim comes the evidence. Evidence क्या है? It is the available body of fact or information indicating whether a belief or a proposition or an assertion is true or valid. So evidence क्या है? It's that proof which tells you कि जो claim आपने की है वो सही भी है या नहीं है. For instance, the same example we can take. कि अगर if there is a reference available the state of cyberbullying victimization in the University of Pakistan is really high, और वहाँ पे कोई study दी हुई है जो कि conduct हुई है in Pakistani universities, and the statistics says that there are some statistics attached to it, और उसकी inferencing जो है वो यही है कि state of cyberbullying victimization is quite high in Pakistan. So that means वो जो लिखा हुआ है with that evidence, with that reference is an evidence. It's no longer a claim. क्यों? क्योंकि जो भी बात लिखी गई है उसका evidence provide कर दिया गया. And the third thing is the result. The result क्या है? Any information that is obtained by using any of the scientific methods, वो कोई quantity भी हो सकती है, या in terms of अगर आप qualitative method इस्तेमाल किया तो it could be a qualitative in nature. That information could be qualitative in nature. So result क्या है? It could be a piece of information that can be the result of an experiment or survey or a case study or any research method. तो आपका result क्या होगा? जो आपने solution provide किया है, ठीक है, उसका outcome क्या है? That would be the result. For instance, I carried out a survey in universities of Pakistan about cyberbullying, and I used the method survey research. ठीक है, survey research में सवालात थे, it had some quantification. वो quantity मैंने उठाई और in the end उसके ऊपर percentages of frequencies लगाई, and there you go, I have the result. क्यों? क्योंकि this is a piece of information that is the outcome of making use of survey based research. अच्छा, फिर you should be knowing about the findings क्या हैं? anything that you infer out of the results that you get from your study, from carrying out your study, is called the finding. देखिए आपका result क्या था? Maybe 80% of the student passed the assessment. Now this is the result. लेकिन ये फाइंडिंग्स नहीं है. फाइंडिंग कुड बी कि इन रिजल्ट से आप इन्फर क्या कर रहे हो. तो इन्फ्रेंस क्या हो गया कि मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल या मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स सक्सेसफुली लर्न द सब्जेक्ट और उन्होंने उनकी परफॉर्मेंस बेहतर थी. नाउ सी दिस, द फाइंडिंग्स कैन बी डिफरेंट इवन इफ द रिजल्ट्स आर द सेम डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट. और एग्जाम्पल इस तरह लेते हैं. अगेन द साइबर बुलिंग फिनोमेना मेजर हो रहा है. मेजर हुआ इन यूरोप और रिजल्ट क्या आया? 50% of the students were cyberbullied. Same study conduct we in the context of Pakistan, and the results is the same. 50% of the students are being cyberbullied in Pakistani university. लेकिन findings दोनों की क्या? Findings in the context of European क्या वाकई में 50% shows कि as per the European universities के क्या is it really के highly cyberbullied हैं students या नहीं? Maybe the rate of cyberbullying in Europe is even it's like more than 70%. So in that context, the findings, the inference is not okay, they are highly cyberbullied. It's just that they are moderately cyberbullied. But on the other hand, the second study जो Pakistan में हुई, so here again we have the same result, 50% cyber victimization. लेकिन inference क्या होगी? क्या पाकिस्तानी जो पहले से evidence मौजूद है पाकिस्तानी universities में क्या 50% तक आती हैं? नहीं आती. Maybe there's evidence already जो पुरानी studies हुई हैं उसकी base के ऊपर it says that कि maybe the maximum is 30%. So here you will say that कि जो cyberbullying है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है in terms of Pakistani context. So result is just that quantification or inference findings होती हैं that are made based on the context of the study that that in which you are trying to answer your research questions. So that brings us to the conclusion. The conclusion क्या है? Which is the final judgment that the researcher arrived after finding out the results and after inferencing from those results. ठीक है. तो maybe in this case ये जो example यहाँ दी है कि 80% students passed and the findings were कि majority of the students successfully learned the subject. तो conclusion क्या होगी? Maybe over here the study was about some intervention, maybe teaching intervention जो उन्होंने adopt की. So conclusion कि judgment क्या होगी in that case कि the intervention was वो काफ़ी हद तक बेहतर थी in making the student learn their subject successfully. So always remember that okay, after you're rereading तो आपने you have to keep on taking notes. तो जो notes हैं वो सिर्फ simply notes नहीं है. You can call it notes plus plus because you're not merely taking notes or you're not merely just highlighting aspects of the paper that you find important, balki it's much more than that. It is answering your questions that are arising while you are doing your research of literature review. Or note making should have a clear purpose. यानी कि आपका what is your purpose of doing this literature review, and why is it note plus plus is because you're not only answering the question बल्कि इसके साथ साथ आप connections भी build कर रहे हो, आप relationships build कर रहे हो. Literature review is not reading one paper बल्कि it's reading multiple papers multiple times, and while you're doing it and you're taking notes, आपके notes enrich हो रहे हैं. And first time maybe it's first read में जब आप notes ले रहे हो तो maybe it's about just finding out or writing जो authors ने किया हुआ. The second time you go back so it's more about what was the connection between the similar studies, And the third time when you go back and you when you take notes, it's more about उनके दरमियान में relationship क्या है. Maybe you find out certain themes in it or certain angles in it were interconnected with each other. So this iterative rereading and taking notes will allow you to make sort of a map in your mind that where different topics or different aspect of the phenomena that you're understanding, they have connections and they have relationships, और वो आपने note making में specify करनी है. And of course you should be taking notes in your own words rather than just copy pasting it, because it will add in a sense that it will enrich your experience of carrying out literature review, क्योंकि इसके अंदर आपकी अपनी thoughts भी शामिल होंगी. So there are different ways in which you can take notes, and one of the method of taking notes is charting method. So charting method में क्या होता है, you construct a list of points या topics या subjects that you want to write about, or each column हर एक point या topic के against आप एक column बना लेते हो, and as you're reading it you're filling in the topic with reference to the article that you're reading, और आप accordingly जो notes लेते हो वो in appropriate column में रखते हो. For example, you read some one paper, उसके अंदर आपको जो है ना 2-3 topics के बारे में पता चल गया, and you keep on putting details on it. So here have a look at one of the example of charting method. I was interested, and maybe the student was interested in finding out कि study के goals और objectives क्या हैं, rationale क्या थी उस study करने की, research method कौन सा apply किया, results and findings study की क्या हैं, and what does the researcher thinks about the study as a whole. So here reference दे दिया गया of the study का. अच्छा, by the way, a quick tip over here कि वैसे तो पूरा title लिखना, because sometimes titles of this study are really long, so it's recommended कि हर एक title को जो researcher है वो एक ID दे दे. So it becomes easier for them to refer to that article via that ID. So here the paper ID is that reference जो कि researcher ने यहाँ पर इस्तेमाल किया हुआ. So you have a paper ID. इस paper ID के against whatever the objectives come here, whatever is the justification for carrying out that study, which is 315, यहाँ लिखी जाएगी. Research method जो इस्तेमाल हुआ goes here, and the critique and whatever questions that are arising in the researcher minds come here. Then comes the second study and third, and so on and so forth. So another method for taking notes is sentence method. Sentence method में क्या होता है, as you read and you find there's a new idea or a new bit of information, you keep you write it in a sentence and you number those sentences. An example could be you were reading the research or topic आपने select कर लिया, as you read the article you came across one aspect, you write the sentence and then you number it as 1. As you went along you came across another aspect of that topic, you read that sentence, you wrote the sentence and wrote the number against it. We say like that कि ये number 1 है and this is topic number 1, subtopic number 1, and maybe there's subtopic number 2, and so on and so forth. आप लिखते हो and you number the subtopics accordingly. You number the elements that you are interested in finding out in this form. Third method of taking notes is mapping method. Mapping method is a pictorial way of representing the information that you gather while doing your literature review. तो इसमें ये क्या होता है, आप key concepts and how they're related among themselves, उनकी आप mapping बना लेते हो. So as it says कि notes read करना, they might contain lots of rich information, लेकिन वो on spot आपको information of a whole नहीं देते हैं. Yeah, it take maybe if you have 2 to 3 pages, it will take you an hour to read through it and understand what the concepts are around. But on the other hand, if you make a mind map of it, तो आपको एक ही नज़र में एक ही गो में उसका abstract level के ऊपर, abstract level के ऊपर, you get to know about different concepts and their interrelationship or connection between them. So what do? You find out what the main topic is, उससे associated maybe जो subtopic है, आप उनको in the forms of connections जो है ना वो show करोगे, and if there are other details associated with it, उनको भी आप इस तरह गोलों की form में show करोगे. So this is how a mapping example looks like. Okay, let's suppose somebody is doing research and chocolate purchasing factors, habits, what are the factors that are responsible for chocolate purchasing in people in Pakistan. So वो multiple articles पढ़ता जा रहा था, and in one of the articles it says that the quality of the chocolate matters. तो यहाँ पर उसने map में key concept बना लिया कि factor क्या है, एक quality है. Then the researcher read another article जहाँ पे उसने कहा कि nutrition is important, कि कितनी उसके अंदर calories, and that is an important factor जो कि guide करता है purchasing habits in Pakistan. And then he read another which says कि taste. और फिर further as the researcher read along, taste से associated जो चीज़ें in different articles उसको मिली, that was richness of the taste, texture of the taste, texture of the chocolate taste, and sweetness of it. So this is how you can make a map of the different concepts associated with the topic that you're researching. And the fourth method for taking notes is called the Cornell method. So Cornell method में क्या करते हैं, in one column you write the summary of the author's conclusion and the evidence, and in the other column आप अपनी assessment या अपनी critique के बारे में या comments उसको देते हैं. So it's more of a you can call it a more standard or more formal way of writing literature review. In a sense कि जब आप write up, I'm not talking, when I talk about writing, over here I just mean writing when it comes to note taking, not writing of the literature review. Literature review की write up जो है वो it has its own elements जो कि एक researcher को follow करने होते हैं. But here when I say it's a more standard or a more formal way of writing literature review, so by that I mean it's when you're taking notes. So the Cornell method is one of the example looks like that कि आपने source का नाम लिखा, and then उसमें key topics or the keywords or key subtopics जो emerge हुए वो यहाँ पर रख दिए, main points यहाँ बता दिए, and whatever the critique was of this article वो आपने यहाँ पे comments में लिख दिए. So another way or modify कर लें कि you just write the name of the article, the key topics that were discussed in that article, और यहाँ पे what were the questions, and then the evidence that is वो आपने यहाँ पर लिख दिया that was in this article, and then maybe in the end you wrote your critique. However, the lead developer were of the opinion that refactoring was much better means of fixing all the attributes problems rather than the upfront design. If this is what your critique is about the article at hand.